I want to begin, though, with a conservative radio host who calls the Zimmerman trial a sideshow. Larry Elder is the host of The Larry Elder Show on KABC and also the author of Dear Father, Dear Son, and he joins me now. Larry Elder, welcome to you.
Welcome. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
You've been pretty scathing about my interview with Rachel Jeantel. Why?
I was, because you weren't doing her any favors by condescendingly trying to convince her that she's a victim. This is a young lady who didn't apply herself, a 19-year-old who's still in high school. Instead of saying, young lady, take this as an opportunity to take stock of your life, you treated her like she was a victim. And that's how you're doing this whole thing about race and racism. 7,000 murders last year, Pierce, of black people. Almost all of those were committed by black people. Since Trayvon Martin has his unfortunate death, there have been 480 blacks killed in Chicago alone. 75% of those crimes have been unsolved. Where are the cameras? Where are the shows? It's outrageous to act as if Black America should fear some non-black guy stalking some black kid at night. The likelihood of a black person being killed by a non-black person is extremely remote, which is why this became a big national issue in the first place, Pierce.
Right. It's perfectly possible, as we have shown on this show many times, to be just as exercised by what is happening in Chicago, which is an absolute national disgrace to America, frankly, in terms of the outlandish.
But you're not, Pierce.
No, but I am.
There's 7,000 murders last year.
I don't think you watched my show, Larry.
Wait a minute.
I don't think you watched my show.
Half of the murders in this country are committed by black people, even though black people are 12% of the population, which means 6% of the population is committing almost half the murders. And you throw out the old people and the young people, Pierce, you're talking about 3% of the population committing almost 50% of the murders.
Fine.
This is
the
why
point I was going to
commonsensical people
Larry,
profile.
if you just calm down for a moment, Larry, here's the point I was going to make.
I'm quite calm. I'm just bothered by how you're handling all
Larry,
of this, making black
let
feel
me
as if
speak,
they're under
Larry.
siege. It's nonsense. It's nonsense.
Larry,
you're a liberal guy, bleeding heart liberal person. You think you're doing something for black people. You're not. You're making black people feel as if they're under siege. And it's not true. It's an outrage.
Thank you, Larry. If I could just get a word in, that would be great.
Sure.
Here's my point. I completely agree with everything you're saying about Chicago. All right, let's just get that on the table. I've been saying this repeatedly on this show. It's a disgrace what's happening in Chicago, particularly with all these young black teenagers killing other young black teenagers. And the president and people down have to deal with it. But let's get back to the Zimmerman trial. Let's get back to my interview with Rachel Jeantel, because you tweeted some ridiculous things. You tweeted at one stage, would I like Rachel Jeantel to fly my plane? Why would you say that?
I'll tell you why I said that, Pierce. I'll tell you why I said that. Because after you interviewed her, you condescendingly went on television the next morning and called her one smart cookie. Bull. Why don't you hire her as a nanny? Let's see how smart she is. It's a condescending kind of thing
that
a lot of white people say to black people. I think you're stupid for saying that kind of thing to try to get black people.
That wasn't my question.
That race and racism.
Do you think Rachel Jeantel is,
when it doesn't?
Do you think she's stupid, Larry?
In America anymore, Pierce. Racism is not a major problem in America anymore. The number one problem facing black people are the large number of black people born outside of wedlock. 75%. In 1960, 5% of all people in this country were born outside of wedlock. Fast forward, Pierce, the number now is 43%. You look at that for crime, dropouts, all that kind of stuff is connected. The other big problem facing black America, Pierce, is the economy. 1 in 2 black men does not have a job. And one of the heads of the Congressional Black Caucus once said, if a white person were in the White House, we'd be marching on the place because of the high unemployment. But we're talking about Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman as if it's the number one problem facing black America. It isn't even remotely on the top 10 list.
Okay, Larry, this isn't a sort of competition to see who can be the greatest filibuster in my show's history.
I'm not trying to filibuster. I'm just trying to make some common sense. I'm not hearing on your show.
Let me just get back to the question I asked you and see if you can actually answer the question. Do you think that Rachel Jeantel is stupid?
I think that I would rather have a George Zimmerman living in my neighborhood, and maybe if George Zimmerman were living in my neighborhood, we'd have fewer Oreo Castros. I thought we wanted people to be proactive. I thought we wanted people to see Larry. Say something. I know, I'm answering something different that ought to be answered.
Could you just answer my question?
The reason I wanted to show that clip is to show that we have black people in the media, within our community, or within the world in general, that go against justice for our people. Now, I never liked Larry Elder. You know, I mean, that guy is he's a pure example of a Sambo. And, you know, my grandmother warned me about him way back in the 90s. You know, God rest her soul. And she was right about this character because he's coon since his very start on TV. Now, if you listen to the interview You heard Paris Morgan ask him, do you think Rachel Gentile is stupid? And that's basically what he was saying in the interview. He was saying, he made a gesture saying, would you let her drive you in a plane or something to that fact. And basically what he was saying is, he was saying, you know, Rachel Gentile is ignorant, stupid. He made a comment about her being 19 and still in high school. And also I made a video saying that I thought she could have handled herself better in court. I'm not going to go and say that sister is stupid and ignorant, because for one, you have a guy like Larry Elder who is completely detached from the black community and is basically a dancing puppet for the white man. And second, I understand the type of environment Rachel Gentile comes from, and I understand how tough and how much you have to work 3 times as hard to get yourself out of those type of situations. I know the ins and outs and ins from the type of community that she comes from. And I'm not saying you can't get educated or you can't be successful in life or you know, exceed all your goals in life, but at the same time, you have to understand all the different things that come at you and all the different elements you have to get over. But, you know, we have to be aware of people like Larry Elder, because this guy here is what you would call a complete coon. And he does nothing but downgrade the black community. He has no type of sympathy for the black community. And we really have to take down people like this, because this guy is very detrimental to us in general. Then I heard this Sambo bring up Chicago. You know, everybody's talking about Chicago and what's going on over there. And like I said in the previous video, I have a relative that stays in Chicago. And they told me, as well as people in certain communities, what we would call the south side of Chicago, the west side, or any other type of area which we would consider to be violent, that's in Chicago. A lot of these things are not, these murders are not done just by black people, or just teens killing teens, or black folks killing black folks. It's corruption within Chicago, and anybody who follows politics know that Chicago has a lot of strange and corruption when it comes to politics, as well as LA, Philadelphia, which is another place that has a high crime rate, which nobody's talking about right now, but Philly is crazy, as well as LA and several other places all across America. But the reason they focus on Chicago is because of Barack Obama. And they want to focus everything, oh, Chicago, let's put all the energy over there. And just like I've said before, all these murders are not done just by it just being black on black crime. I told you guys a story about back in the 90s when the LA gangs had the peace treaty, and you had cops that were going around in known gang members' cars doing drive-bys to keep that animosity and keep that violence up, and to keep black folks killing each other. See, nobody wants to talk about that, because when you start talking about that, that gets people thinking. That gets people thinking about what's going on behind the scenes, what's going on that's not being shown on the media, or to these Sambos that are out here talking down towards the black community. That gets people investigating. So that's why nobody wants to talk about that. But, you know, this guy here, man, Larry Elder, he better hope he don't ever have to come back to the black community, because, you know, somebody gonna nail his ass to the cross. But that's all I wanted to say. You know, I just wanted to point out a Sambo that we have out here, because this Larry Elder guy, as well as many others that I can put on blast. We got to watch out for these people, because these people are becoming the voice of the black community. Because they don't want a cat like, you know, me or another brother out here with common sense, or several other YouTubers that speak the truth out here. They don't want us to speak. That's why we got all these trolls and YouTube coming after us and flagging our channels, because we speak the truth. We're speaking the stuff that's not spoken in the world media, or these public figureheads that have the opportunity to voice their opinions and speak what they think is true, or Sambo for these white people out here. But that's all I had to say. I'm out. Peace.